Ayahuasca journey is a complex and difficult process. First off, there's the physical effects. Ayahuasca is a beverage. It's a brew, and it tastes is absolutely disgusting. It is hard to imagine a more horrific and unpleasant taste. And you have to brace yourself physically and mentally before pouring this beverage down your throat. I certainly do. It's very, very, very hard work. Secondly, within about half an hour to an hour of drinking the brew, most of us start to feel pretty ill. You're vomiting, you have diarrhea. It's physically a most uncomfortable ordeal that you have to go through before the powerful visionary effects to begin to take place. And those visionary effects typically have two levels. One of them concerns what you might call personal development. In the Amazon, they believe that there is an intelligent spirit that lies behind ayahuasca. They don't think they're dealing with just plants, and who are we to say they're wrong? The shamans believe that an intelligent entity, a spirit being, lies behind the ayahuasca beverage, and that she, and they always regard her as a female presence, that her business is the planet and the betterment of human beings. Strange idea, huh? But this is what they believe in the Amazon, and they know a damn sight more about it than we do. Well, one of the ways this works is that ayahuasca will typically show you your own life in an extremely clear and unconfused way. Normally we protect our own behavior with all sorts of little personal explanations and reasons for why we behave in the way that we do. Ayahuasca will show you absolutely clearly and honestly really why you behaved in the way that you did. Sometimes you may have been mean or harsh to another person and pass that off as absolutely the right thing to do under the circumstances. Ayahuasca will show you it was the wrong thing to do. It will show you that anger and ego and arrogance and pride in your own personality are not serving you and are not helpful. And it will keep teaching you these lessons again and again and again, showing you starkly and honestly how you are until you start fixing your behavior and improve the way that you function in the world and work hard to become a less toxic and more positive person. Ayahuasca's done this for me, and it's done it for countless other people who I know. It's a mystery, but there it is. It puts you through that psychological process where you actually start examining your own life and asking questions about the way you behave. The second thing that ayahuasca does is take you on a journey into parallel realms. Now, of course, many scientists would say this is just brain candy. This is just an illusion of your own brain, disturbed brain chemistry. I don't agree with those scientists. I can't prove they're wrong, but when I look at the burden of evidence, and particularly of the huge body of knowledge that shamanistic cultures have brought together on the use of visionary plants, I'm inclined to believe that they're right, and that reality is much more complicated than we imagine, and that we are surrounded all the time by a vast, invisible reality, normally invisible to our senses. And what I've found, and many others report this with ayahuasca, is that it seems to retune the receiver wavelength of the brain and allow those normal, invisible realms to become visible for a brief period. So it connects us to a much wider reality. This can be deeply disturbing, but also incredibly nourishing to realize that we are not just this finite little dot, that we're part of a much huger and wider, awe-inspiring reality. And the third thing that happens with ayahuasca, and it's very curious, is that if you have some aspect of your life that's creative, could be writing poetry, could be painting, ayahuasca again and again will enhance that. All over the world now, we're seeing incredible visionary art produced by people who've been inspired by ayahuasca. Now, this is not news to the shamans in the Amazon, because they create incredible visionary art, and have done for thousands of years, documenting their ayahuasca journeys. But it's happening in the West now. I'm thinking of people like Alex Gray, Bob Vinosa, Martina Hoffman, who have brought into being incredible works of art inspired by their ayahuasca experiences. It seems to enhance certain aspects of human creativity. All of these things are available to us should we choose to drink ayahuasca. We do not have to drink ayahuasca. It's a personal choice. I would like to live in a society where that personal choice can be made, free of fear, free of ideology, free of propaganda, simply a decision that an adult makes about his or her own life. I'm not claiming that I'm a better person because of ayahuasca, but what I am saying is I'm trying to be a better person because of ayahuasca. It's showed me serious faults in my personality. I regard them as serious, which need to be fixed. And life is a journey, and I'm 59 years old, and I only have, so much longer on this planet. With the time I have left, I would like to do it right rather than do it wrong. And I'm grateful to ayahuasca for showing me where I've been doing things wrong. It's very hard to change deeply ingrained old habits, but I am trying, and I shall continue to try while I'm on this planet.
Can you tell us about your experiences and what you took out of DMT?
Well, I took it in the form of ayahuasca. I took it twice in about 3 days in Brazil in 2003. I've not touched it since, and I don't feel the need to. But the experience I had was massive. And for me, what people say, it took me somewhere. I don't think it takes us anywhere. I think it takes us to where we already are. And if we're in a really deeply negative state, you can take this stuff and have a real, what they used to call in the 60s, a bad trip. Or if you're in another state, you can have a wonderful experience. Yeah. My experience was just unforgettable. I mean, I had a voice, a woman's voice, which is, what is a woman's voice? Oh, it's just, it's a woman talking to him. No, it's a frequency. It is an information field of a certain frequency, and certain frequencies you decode as female, and certain frequencies you decode as male. It's a consciousness that is communicating, and almost certainly, it has to be if we're all infinite awareness, it's an expression of your own consciousness, just a very much deeper level of it. And for 5 hours it talked to me about the illusory nature of reality, and I had instant recall of every word afterwards, which was amazing in itself. And I was taken to a place, I'm using human language here, taken to a place.
It's very hard to describe.
Yeah. And I tell you, it's a place that I experienced as beyond the realm of vibration. Because anything that vibrates, this is actually, funnily enough, Luke, this is one of the many really stunning lines that this voice communicated to me. Because when it started off, it said, we're going to take you to where you come from, so you will understand better where you are and where you're coming back to. And then it kept repeating, this is right at the start of this voice starting, 5 hours. Infinite love is the only truth, everything else is illusion. And when you study near-death experiences and all that stuff, when they go into these realms beyond the body, I have never come across anyone that wanted to come back, because they talk about this unbelievable bliss and love and all the rest of it. And anyway, I had this stunning line I was talking about at one point. It said, infinite love is the only truth, everything else is illusion. If it vibrates, it's illusion. Right? Because the pure, infinite, all that is, all possibility, is still and silent. People think that things have to move to be something, and actually, silence is all sound. It's all possibility waiting to manifest. So if I'm talking now, I have picked out of that infinite possibility of sound, I have picked out the words that I am talking. And when I stop, apart from the traffic, it's gone back into silence. Within the silence is everything. So I experience this as this silent stillness, as the infinite point of attention. And it took the form of this sounds really funny, but if you've experienced it, people know what I mean. I saw it as a shining blackness. Shining blackness. Now, years later, in fact, in the last 12 months, there was a doctor called Ibn Alexander, and he was, I think he's in New York, and he was a neurosurgeon. I think he still is. And he was one of these rigid kind of people. He admits it in his book. I was one of these rigid people. Obviously people would have near-death experiences when he was doing his surgery sometimes, and they'd tell him their stories. And as he said, I thought, oh, that's very interesting. A load of rubbish, but it's very interesting. And it was like mainstream. This is not possible. This world is all there is. And then he got it was a form of meningitis that was so bad that his brain shut down in every area apart from the most primitive level that was necessary to keep him alive. This man, in effect, died for 7 days. And this is the interesting point which he points out. When people talk about, and there's millions and millions of them now, when they talk about near-death experiences, the mainstream scientists, they go, oh, it is not impossible. Oh, please, God save us from science. And anyway, because what they're doing is they're just reliving their experiences from this part of the brain, and that's what's happening and all that stuff. Well, that part of the brain, in his case, completely shut down. It was inactive, so it ain't coming from there. And he came back. He should not have lived. That was a virtual impossibility for him to live. It was certainly almost absolutely impossible for him, if he did live, to be anything more than a vegetative state. And he came back after a transition period, completely normal, and went on with his life. And he wrote this book about it, which became a New York bestseller. Why I'm telling you this story, it's very interesting, I think, is because when he first left the body and had a near-death experience himself, he entered a realm. I talk about this in the new book that's coming out in the autumn. He went into a realm that was classically the realm of the demons and the what I would call the archons and the reptilian entities and all this stuff. In fact, he talks about seeing reptilian beings brushing against him and all that stuff. And then a light came down, and he was taken out, what he called through the gate, into this amazing, blissful place, and on and on and on, until, this is where I'm coming round to, he said he was taken to experience the ultimate, the source. And you know what he calls it? The dazzling darkness.
Wow.
Exactly what I experienced.
Yeah.
And the dazzling darkness is mesmerizing, because it is all that is, has been, and ever can be. And then we pull that all potential, all possibility, all potential into worlds of certain expressions of that potential, and this is one of them. And so that experience with the ayahuasca, DMT, was massively important for me, because what I did then, you know, what I do when I research, I don't just take one thing and then say, well, that's all right then. I came back to England and I looked at the mainstream science in all the different areas to see if I could confirm that what was being said was true. Everything checked out, the whole bloody thing. And once you've got this point where you realize it's an illusion, you can still interact with the illusion and live in the illusion, but you know it's an illusion, and illusions only control you when you think they're real. This is why it's important to understand the nature of what we're in, because if we think this is solid and all the rest of it, what does solid say immediately? Limitation, can't be done. and yet it's just a holographic projection of infinite possibility, which is totally malleable and can be changed any time.